I love the concept of researching words and the definitions. Where'd you get that idea?
It was a New Year's resolution, Armando. As silly as that sounds, I resolved. I was new to B2B sales, never done it before or in that industry, both. And I thought, well, I've always been good at customer service. So how do I leverage that? How do I take that strength and sell authentically and break records, which is what I did. And then I realized I should write a book. I should write a book for customer service, frontline people, or the ones who lead them. So then I did. But I resolved before I started writing that book that if I came across any word that I thought could be rich in meaning, I would go to the dictionary. When I looked up the definition for winning, that was the first one that rocked my world. Customer was cool, leadership was cool, winning is what rocked my world, and that's why I wrote a book about it that just came out in November called Winning Secrets, How a Dictionary and a Ruler Can Change Your Life. And it did. A dictionary changed my life. And the messages that I found in those things have impacted others powerfully too.
Hey, I'm Armando Leduc, producer, film actor, and owner of Leduc Entertainment. I've chosen a life off the beaten path and wanted to find others that are doing the same. Spaghetti on the Wall is a show based on all of the years that I've thrown spaghetti on the wall and nurtured what stuck. We will share fun stories, ideas, tips, tricks, and more. Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Spaghetti on the Wall back in it, and we've got John Hanson in the house. What's up, John?
Hey, Armando. It's great to be on your show. I've had the privilege of seeing so many of those episodes come through my inbox. What a cool title, too. Doesn't that just grab your attention? Unlike some of the titles that I've seen before, it really gets you.
Thank you. I live my life with this motto. This is my credo. So, spaghetti. But I like to say throwing spaghetti on the wall and nurturing what sticks. Not just seeing what sticks, but let's nurture what sticks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well said.
Yeah, thank you. So, John, you, author, speaker, business consultant, coach. What else do you do?
Workshop facilitation. So it's an idea of training, and I've got several of those lined up here in Q1, talking on subjects like customer experience, customer service, empathy, self-care. So those things really resonate, earning trust. Really resonate in both the for-profit and the nonprofit space. It turns out that I've had a strong interest in the nonprofit space on topics like that. So I love to speak in whatever form it is and write. So speaking takes different forms, but the writing and then the coaching is something that I really love, kind of that one-on-one or small group input. So those are kind of all the ways that I can add value to others.
And so we've been speaking. We're a member of a group together called the Visionary Forum. Met at the Visionary Summit, which was amazing. If you guys don't know what this is, it's a group of visionaries from across the country that meet bi-monthly, and it's a great place to exchange information and meet some really amazing visionaries from across the country. And so that's how we came to know each other. And so we're getting to talking about where we help and how we're, what our focus is. And you were kind of telling me a little bit about how you're moving into a space of working with entrepreneurs that are ready to sell their businesses and exit planning. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about, how you help in that department and what drew you to that specifically.
The title of your podcast, Spaghetti on the Wall, it's interesting. I was speaking at a conference in Denver. It was the first time I'd done it, and then I went back a second year, but it was the first time that I went where I was done speaking, and a business owner comes up to me afterwards and says, have you considered business coaching? I said, yeah, I'm considering it for next year. It's one of my goals, one of my plans. And she said, well, I'd like to be coached. So when anybody says, hey, I want what you have, you create it and you say, sure, let's do it. So it turns out that this person, without knowing it, was setting the template for the ones I ideally want to coach, which are entrepreneurial business owners who have an exit goal. So many years out, I want to be transitioning to the next thing. But also entrepreneurial, and I started learning how to check boxes, kind of look for clues for business owners who are entrepreneurial. Now, I know sometimes when we say exit planning, people are automatically, like I did, applying age to it. Oh, so it's somebody that's done it for 20 years, 25, 30 years, and they're ready to retire. And that's exit. They need to exit out of their business because their value is tied up in it and they want to retire. But that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm actually speaking about people who are purely entrepreneurial. The book E-Myth, great book by Michael Gerber, of identifying if you're purely entrepreneurial. Not someone who's a technician who's really skilled at something, not someone who manages a business well, but someone who's entrepreneurial. Your identity isn't wrapped up in the business. You get more satisfaction out of starting something, growing it, and then transitioning to the next thing. Age has nothing to do with it. And I'm blessed to be around people that are successfully serial entrepreneurials and still going. That gave me an idea of what that looks like. So entrepreneurs are those business owners who are entrepreneurial, are the ones that I can help the most, because what I found, Armando, is that they execute. When they come up with an idea, they're forward thinking, they take action, and they know, if I'm going to get to the goal that I have, I prefer to get there sooner as opposed to later. What do I need to do that? And that they can work with someone they trust that's working with them, rather than just saying, here's the recipe, follow this, and then you'll get out the year you want to. It's not like that. It's far more complex based on what's going on in their business, where they want to go. And so that's just something it kind of evolved over the years, that I didn't realize I was building a recipe of who would be the ideal. You know how they ask, like, who can you best serve? Well, if you don't know who you can best serve, then you'll say, well, I can serve anybody. Well, that's just not true, because if you try to serve anybody, you'll end up serving nobody. You really got to get clarity on who you can best serve. And that's just something that's gotten very clear this year for me.
That's amazing. And so what are the first steps that you're looking at? How are they finding out about you?
Yeah, so believe it or not, Armando, about 7 years ago, I had no connections at all. None. I was in a corporate role, so all the work came to me. And then I wrote my first book. I got in an author's club, and I started realizing B2B sales. And I thought, if I'm going to beat the record, which I did, not because I can sell you this pen, but because I learned how to leverage the tools, and social media was one of them. I'd heard of LinkedIn, but I hadn't done anything with it. When I discovered what it was and what its potential was, I'm like, oh, where has this been all my life? So I just dove in hard, and I built something from nothing to now I have over 30,000 first-degree connections across the U.S. and overseas, through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, through those social media platforms. But then I have a really robust local network here in Ohio, about 10 to 15,000 connections, really quality people. I started first by building that, so that I would have a platform, so that I would be able to be found. You know, Grant Cardone says so well, best known beats best. So what tools am I going to use to be able to get out in front of someone so that they can say, that sounds interesting, I need to check out more. Another thing I did was, and this was a friend's recommendation, is I pivoted away from my LLC brand to my own name. It's a DBA, so it's still my LLC is in the background, but I pivoted to my own brand. So I branded a website, johndhanson.com, which happened to be available. And so now there's a place where people can go that has FAQs, that has pricing, that has testimonials, that has kind of enough to where they can dive deep, digest all kinds of content, look at my books, YouTube channel, all that through my website. And then they have more of a strength of trust to reach out. So it's a combination of social media, of putting out, and then being a website created so that people can have a landing space to go and do their own research, because people love to research on their own before they pick up the phone or shoot an email or a text. And so it's a combination of those two things, and then networking would be the third. Really finding people who are aligned, who are also entrepreneurial, and building and deepening those relationships in a win-win way, helping each other grow. When I especially resonate with how they do business, not necessarily what they do, but how they do it. So I'd say those three things: social media, website, personal branding, and collaboration, networking, working with others who are aligned in that same kind of space.
So you have a few different public speaking talks. Can you tell me some of the titles?
Yeah. So the number one, all of them, believe it or not, all of them came about from the studying of words. So when I wrote my first book, I promised myself that I would, if there's any word that I thought could have good meaning to it, I'd go back to the dictionary and find out all of its meanings and where it came from, find out its origin. Well, every time I've done that, it ends up being a talk or a book eventually as well. So the number one requested session that I speak on is leadership. Heroic leadership is the title. And when I studied both those words, I realized, wow, we're missing a little bit here. I would not be as arrogant to say that John Maxwell is off or wrong, what I discovered was a new facet of leadership, or a new definition for it that people were missing when I went back and actually studied the word. And heroism is the same way. Oftentimes I have something in my mind, as do most people, what a word means, but it's based off of my experiences or what I've assumed dangerously, or what others have said that I respect, rather than going back and doing the study for myself. And when I did that for heroic leadership, heroism leadership, powerful, life-changing. Every time that I presented that, there's a buzz in the room afterwards, because essentially people understand that this is an opportunity that's available to anyone. Leadership done right, and heroic leadership, is not by title, age, gender, experience, none of that. And so the word itself unpacked a lot of meaning. Same with customer discovery, another one that I have about customer service, or really customer experience. Customer service, I have a talk on that. I have a book on that. That's kind of what we give. But customer experience, that's very, very different, because that's dependent upon what they take away. That's our brand. That's what they're really getting, versus what we want them to get. Customer experience is really trying to get a handle on what are they getting, and then where's the gap? Is it close? Is it far away? What work do we need to do to close that gap? So I'd say those are probably the top two.
Are you, and that's awesome. I love the concept of researching words and the definitions. Where'd you get that idea?
It was a New Year's resolution, Armando. As silly as that sounds, I resolved. I was new to B2B sales, never done it before, or in that industry, both. And I thought, well, I've always been good at customer service. So how do I leverage that? How do I take that strength and sell authentically and break records, which is what I did. Well, I thought, I'm going to study every thought leader on customer service. I'm going to get their books, either buy them or borrow them from the library. I'm going to study all of them and find out what aspect of sales is in that. Well, as I did that, and I kept reading these thought leaders, I realized, man, a lot of the stuff they did, I did was when I was in customer-facing roles. Since I was 16 years old, I was in customer-facing roles and did really well, because at the place where they measured it, 2 Fortune 10 companies, I was at the top of my team every time. So how do I convert that into sales? And then I realized I should write a book. I should write a book for customer service frontline people, or the ones who lead them. So then I did. But I resolved before I started writing that book that if I came across any word that I thought could be rich in meaning, I would go to the dictionaries. It was a resolution in 2017 that I decided to do that. And I'll tell you, when I looked up the definition for winning, that was the first one that rocked my world. Customer was cool. Leadership was cool. Winning is what rocked my world. And that's why I wrote a book about it that just came out in November called Winning Secrets, How a Dictionary and a Ruler Can Change Your Life. And it did. A dictionary changed my life. And the messages that I found in those things have impacted others powerfully too.
That's awesome. Talk to me about customer service and how you approach it, and why can it be learned, or is that innate? You seem to be very, when I met you, you're just very easy to talk to, right? Super engaged, and had this manner that not a lot of visionaries that I meet have, because visionaries are just, off in la la land. They hear one thing and then all of a sudden it takes them to another land. And then they're like coming back, about 3-4 sentences back. And they're like, okay, what were they saying? Because now, that one thing took me there, but you're like super locked in. So is it something that's innate? Was this something that you needed to really work on? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes and yes. I was born empathetic, meaning it was hardwired into me. I didn't even know it was a professional skill until 3 years ago when I read Marcus Buckingham's book, Now Discover Your Strengths. And empathy is a professional strength. He came from Gallup, Marcus Buckingham did. And they identified 30 plus skills that are professional skills. And empathy is one of them. The ability to effortlessly slip in somebody else's shoes. Well, I was able to do that since I was a kid. But the part that I had to learn, Armando, was I had to learn how to enjoy and care for people. I was super analytical. You probably couldn't guess it. Super analytical, high nerd. Like I was planning to do numbers and accounting. Turns out I hate accounting. I don't like the making the numbers match. It's so tedious. Even though I had a skill in it, I didn't like it. And then I began to enjoy being around others. And as I worked out of my shell, that was kind of more of protecting myself. And I started learning about others. And I read great books by John Maxwell, like Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. I discovered that I could learn so much, and it's inspired this insatiable curiosity in me, where I believe that, especially when I notice there's something different about that person, I want to know their story. When I hear people's stories, it's like walking books that just come alive, and I always learn from people like that. So it was a combination of that natural empathy, but then the learned ability to engage others in a way that added value to them. At first, when I engaged people, it was to try to earn their approval, to try to look like the cool guy, the smart guy, not the cool guy. My brother had that. I tried to look like the smart guy, the guy that had everything all together, but that was all about me. And when I flipped that to put it on its head of, I want to learn about them. I want to know their story. And I'm genuinely curious because people can feel that. You try and ask me questions that kind of do the warm up and then here comes the pitch. But genuinely curious about people, they can tell by the questions you ask. And that's just something that I learned over the years where I had the ability to earn trust quickly because I did that. I set records in sales in industries I had no experience in, insurance, life insurance, in Kentucky of all places. You know, if those people don't like you, they don't do business with you. In industrial automation with no experience whatsoever and set record my first full year. So I have the ability to earn trust quickly because the questions I ask communicate to them. I genuinely care about them. So I would say relationship selling, where you are coming across as a consultant or as a trusted advisor, still works well. And I think it works even better nowadays because people want to know that you're authentic and that they can trust you.
It is so true. I was talking to my sales guy about it because he's in sales mode a lot of the times.
Mm.
And our approach to sales, or my approach to sales these days, is more about how do I add value so much so that they're like, wow, this is what he's giving for free. Imagine what it's going to look like when we do work together, you know? Because the thing is, like, they already know you want their business.
Right.
They already know. You don't have to tell them that. They already know. You know what I mean? So what else? What else is there, right? And if we're going to be on a retainer-based, system where we're going to work with each other on a monthly basis, well, we better want to talk to each other. We better want to be good, So I love that idea. So the book, the customer service book, what's it called?
Wow Your Customers, 7 Ways to World-Class Service. And I've got a brand new one that I'm bringing out, introducing at a summit down in Florida in April. So I've got a 120-day window to crank that out. It's a presentation I've already given, but I'm adding a new dimension to it that is brand new, and I'm launching it at that summit in April called Your Winning, this is the working title, but Your Winning Business Plan, 5th Dimensional Customer Experience, leveraging 5th Dimensional Customer Experience. And that begs the question, well, what is 5th Dimensional? And how is that a winning game plan? And that's what every title of my book, I try to be raising a question so that people are like, I got to get the book down to get the answer. That's the book I'm most excited about because it ties in so well with this Exit Planning Institute Summit, where the people that are going to be there a lot of them are going to be, I'm looking for something that's going to help me in a win-win manner get to my exit strategy sooner. How do I do that? And that's where I believe I've already got a winning game plan because I've already had experience in working that with business owners, and we've seen tremendous progress. As a matter of fact, one said that they had more progress with me in 3 sessions than they did in 2 years on their own. So that was a ringing endorsement that I still keep on my website. And we only paused because their mother got cancer. So we had to put a timeout on things. Otherwise, we'd be cranking out that plan still today. And they executed. So that's the book I'm most excited about. The Winning Secrets, How a Dictionary Ruler Can Change Your Life. That just came out in November. That was a 7-year project. I finally got done. COVID threw a curveball in there, and I got back to it and published that. It's available on Amazon. Got some great endorsements. My gosh, the people that said 6 continents, and some of the thought leaders that signed on, John DeJulius, Gino Wickman, Brian Tracy, David Meltzer, some incredible names that said you need to read this book. So I'm super proud and grateful for those people that supported it.
Is it in Audible form?
That is coming. I'm actually working on that during the holidays here, so it's coming out in January.
Oh, good.
So the paperback and the e-version are available now. The Audible is coming end of January.
That's awesome, man. I love customer service stuff because it's not something that's talked about often. You know, in business, we're always, what's top line revenue? How do you sell? How do you market? You know, and then not as much thought goes into after you get the money, right? Like after they become a client, then what do you do, right? Like, and a lot of people sort of just kind of wing it. They don't have they don't have a plan. So how are you creating a plan for them? Is it something that you spell out in your book, or, you know, or is it is it jumping off points?
Yeah, great question. So that's going to be spelled out in the book that I'm actually in the process of writing now. It's coming out in April. It's going to be spelling out that process step by step because it goes back to the word itself, which was the insight that launched customer discovery for me back in 2019 is when I first started sharing that message. Because customer, when I went back to the origin, is an old English word that comes from the word accustomed. It was actually, we put dollars and cents to it, or pounds or pence. But before then, it was actually about who you regularly interacted with. You were accustomed to interacting with them, a customer. Then we assigned dollars and made it purely a transactional relationship, where in its origin, it was more about the frequency. So someone who darkens your door once and never comes back, by origin definition, is not a customer. They just did a transaction with you and then they didn't come back. Well, what I also looked at, so if customer is someone who regularly interacts with you, well, that means that there are other kinds of customers that don't even hit the radar typically in a customer service or a customer experience strategy. Most often it's the ones paying you money, and there are some tools that are used somewhat. They'll appoint people in a customer experience role that will also use these tools, but it hardly ever gets below the surface. There are some amazing things being done in customer experience thought leadership. But when it comes to actually the rubber hitting the road, it's not there yet. But I also discovered that even in those worlds, they're not going deep enough. So if you're looking at the people you regularly interact with and you don't marry employee experience with customer experience, you don't marry the internal customer with the external customer, that's actually worse than just having it focused on the paying customer. Sir Richard Branson of Virgin said, take the very best care of your people so they can take the very best care of your customers. If you're not taking as good or better care of your team, then the experience with the paying customer is going to suffer. So we see the organizations that just shine in industries that are notorious for bad service levels. Why? Because they invest heavily into their people, and the people in turn take very good care of their customers. So as I start going down these layers of who we regularly interact with, that's where I started peeling back the onion. And when you get to the core of it, and this was the mind-blowing, well, I'll give away the punchline of customer discovery. So you start with external customer, then you go to internal, and these get more important as you go. External, internal, your inner circle. So as much as we like to say we don't bring people to work with us, we absolutely bring people to work with us. We're emotional beings, so we bring our family, we bring our head talk, we bring our negative talk, we bring our positive talk, we bring our mentors, we bring our influencers. All those people come to work with us. So if you're not recognizing the inputs into people's lives and the influences and the impacts that are happening them outside of work, then you're missing one of the most important, because the intimate relationships have more impact than the day-to-day. You have more time at work together, but that's not as intimate of a relationship as what they're experiencing with their loved ones, their inner circle, their close friends, their mentors, their thought leaders that they go to, whether they be coaches or writers or speakers. But then I took it to the deepest level, I thought, at the time. The next level down is the person you interact with the most is yourself. So when you get to the level of self-care, if you as a person are not investing intentionally and regularly into yourself, you're automatically shortchanging everybody around you. And this is why self-care and mental health and all those things are critically important, where if you're just trying to take care of the one that's handing you the money, you're missing 3 layers. And then there's a brand new one I just discovered. After spending some time, I had the privilege of being in David Meltzer's coaching circles and had some incredible VIP events with him, and some of his guests were amazing. One thing that he said got my attention this year, and I realized there's a 5th level, there's a 5th dimension of what we interact with that goes beyond ourselves. and takes it to an even deeper level. And that's what if you can tap into at least those four, you'll be light years ahead of the businesses that are only, at best, taking care of their employees and their paying customers. You get to those other two levels, then you're starting, it's game changer right there. And then you take it to that fifth level, it's like rocket fuel for entrepreneurs. You pair visionary with integration. Well, you pair holistic, fifth dimensional customer experience with a business that already has a winning recipe. Rocket fuel. You are automatically going to be head and shoulders above anybody else, and it will be so win-win. You'll be like this super magnet that's turned on, where people and businesses and employees and vendors, not only do they stick, but they want to desperately stick around because your business is different than anybody else. The brand and the experience they have with you is just unrivaled. But it has to be done intentionally, it has to be done systematically, it has to be done thoroughly across your entire organization. So if you have multiple locations, it's even more important to have this spelled out. But the greatest thing, Armando, is that none of this is rocket science. This is simple, but it's not easy. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's simple in the principles, and then laying out how you do it. And that's what I intend to do with the book. I intend to make it a DIY, because as much as I would love to be consulting every entrepreneurial business, I just simply can't. But if a business will take these principles and run with it, awesome, that's what I want. And then the business say, we could really use somebody that can help walk us through this. Great, then I'm available. But I don't ever intend to be a permanent employee, a permanent contractor or consultant. I want to teach them how to fish, put that in place, and then on to the next, because we only have so much time in this life, and windows of opportunity are only open for so long. So I want to equip as many businesses as I can that will take these principles and run with them. And then if they want some support, that's what I'm here for. But I think a lot of these are for the businesses that are already entrepreneurial and forward thinking. I want to lay out a clear enough roadmap where they could do it themselves. And then if they want some help, I'm here.
That's awesome. I love how you gave it, and you were like, here. And if you want to know the last bit, got to get moving.
I can't give away that punchline. I can't do that.
Can't give it away. Can't give it away right here. No, that's awesome, though. 5 dimensions of customer service. Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah, 5 customer experience. Yes.
How intriguing.
Yeah, the fifth dimension. I looked at different ways of the subtitle is what I really want to get people's attention with. In all of my books, I try to do that. And that's where I came across. So what takes it to another level that's just not thought of? We're already, 4D, 4-dimensional customer experience is so rarely even pursued, let alone accomplished in the marketplace. But the beauty of it is that 90+% of businesses in the United States, and I would say the world probably holds true, are small to mid-sized companies who are so agile that they could actually implement it. The problem that we're seeing is that customer experience typically is being addressed across the board now at the publicly held large organizations. But by nature, they're so large that they can't be nimble. Gore, the company that makes Gore-Tex, I discovered this a few years ago. They have multiple locations. I think it's the Delaware area. And what they do is they build, whenever they buy or build, they make the parking lot 150 spaces. So when people start parking on the grass, it's time to open another location, because they discovered internally the magic number for ideal agility combined with getting things done was 150. When you start tripping over that number, that's where you start getting into too many layers. As good as the company might be, they start getting in their own way. And I think that's what's happening with these large organizations that have customer experience as a priority. But they're so large, by the time it gets down to the working level, the working unit, it's lost its impact, or it's so diffused that it just doesn't get done. And eventually the person up there is more of a figurehead than they are the one getting things done. Small to mid-sized companies, where it's at, they can take these principles, apply them, see results so quickly. And the best part about these is that they require extremely low spend. It's not so much about the spend. It's more about the intentionality and then the setting things in place so it happens automatically. That's where the success of it is. That's why Chick-fil-A
And are you
works.
talking about touch points? Are you talking about customer touch points, or is that just a facet of it?
That's a facet of it. So I would say that's a facet of your external, depending on what you mean by customer. I'm thinking paying customer. It's yes. So you're looking at touch points, absolutely. But then, so I'll give you a couple examples. Number one is Harvard Business Review, Bain & Co. Both had studies that showed that repeat and referral is 5 to 25 times less expensive and easier to get than acquiring new. What does that mean when you apply that to everybody, anybody's business? What it means is that if you already have raving fans, you're like, what, squeeze more blood out of a turnip or more water out of a rock? That's not what I mean. I don't mean that you go to them, hey, give me more money, give me more business. What you do is, because they're raving fans of yours, they love your brand, they love you. And if somebody asks like, hey, do you know somebody? They'll say, that company, go talk to Armando and his group. They do an excellent job. They're in your corner already. Well, oftentimes the engagement is, we're grateful for your business, thank you, Christmas cards, cookies, birthdays, things like that. But it doesn't go to that next level of engagement of, before you ask, say, hey, get their story. How did you find us? What did you like about it? Why did you stay with us? Why do you keep coming back? Asking these questions helps identify, why are they doing what they're doing? Because these raving fans are going to have these, you'll see these red threads that kind of weave their way through where there's this consistency. You're doing something right consistently to have raving fans. Well, it doesn't take much effort to take someone that came once and had a good experience into a raving fan, as opposed to going out there and bombarding the heck out of cold network, trying to land one that might become warm and then hot. It's easier to take somebody from warm to hot than it is from cold to warm, especially cold to hot. So 5 to 25 times less expensive and more effective if you look at repeat or referral. So if you work through your raving fans first and stay connected with them and then let them know. Oftentimes, even raving fans don't know all the things you have to offer. They might have only used one thing of the suite you've got. And that doesn't matter what service you're in. If they don't know all the ways that you're helping, and that's why by sharing stories are so effective, because it's not a direct sell. Saying, hey, we help this company do this, we do this. By extension, you're automatically telling them what to do. So it's touch points with those existing clients. Voice of the customer, VOC they call it. If you're not asking, what are we doing well? What could we be doing better? What service could we provide that we're not offering now that you would use if we had it? Just asking questions like that of your raving fans is where you want to start. Then you look internally. Now you're missing, there's another gold mine under company's noses called VOE, voice of the employee. And you ask these same kind of rich questions because the normal tools out there are just scratching the surface. Hey, out of 1 of 10, how would you rate us? Well, it's a sliding scale. It's not specific. If you could ask them like, okay, so why did you join our company as a team member? What keeps you here? Why do you like coming to work? We're assuming that because you know people who are bought in. Armando, you've worked in industry as long as I have. You know people that are bought in. Like, if they wore your logo out in public, you would be proud of that. And they're happy to do it. They're a walking billboard. Those are the bought in people. Those are the ones you've really got to be engaging with. Why? Because they're raving fans internally. You're asking them, what are we doing good? What are customers saying that we could be doing better? Or what did some customers say, oh man, I wish you had something like that. Even if you never will, I guarantee you've got a network of trusted companies, colleagues, where you would happily refer business to them. Because this is the one thing about brand experience, and I say this often, you have a brand by default or you have it by design. So if you have it by design, then what you want to be doing is you want to be guarding your reputation so that every time you make a referral, you are, by extension, offering your reputation. You're putting your reputation at stake. So when you say to someone, we don't do that, but I know a company that does excellent work with that. You send a client, a raving fan of yours, to them. They also do good work for them. Guess what that did for your brand? You didn't do any work for them. You simply referred them on to a trusted resource. And now that makes you even more invaluable. The goal for any business is to be as much of a one-stop shop as possible. That does not mean in revenue only. That's the assumption people make. One-stop shop means if I need something, I'm going to go to my most trusted resource and ask them first. So if you have clients asking you, Armando, you've done great work for us. Who would you recommend that does? Because they know you don't do it. That is one of the highest accolades any business can get, because you have intertwined yourself so much with them that they can't imagine their life without what you do. And that's the goal, the stickiness that comes from a relationship that is so entwined. Even if somebody dangled them a price that's ridiculously low, they wouldn't go for it. Why? Because of the quality of the relationship and the quality of what you've done for them by who you've recommended. Your reputation is so important in that, and that's your brand. That's the experience that your raving fans externally, internally have with you.
John Hanson dropping fire today. I appreciate you, man. This was super eye-opening. Loved it. Definitely gave me some things to think about. That's why I love doing this podcast, man, because it's just...
You must get so many ideas.
Oh, my God. I'm like, I'm just talking to, just masters in their craft. I'm like, I just mine it. Got to mine it for information. I had somebody on the other day that said that they have a 4-day work week. They only work Monday through Thursday with the entire staff. And she said it works out great. And I was like, all right. So in January, we're going to start the 4-day work week, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, but it was awesome having you. John, tell them where they can find you if they want to work with you.
Best place to go, 2 places to go. My website, JohnDHanson, HANSON.com, or you can go to LinkedIn. I've got all kinds of content there. Those would be the 2 best places. I didn't know when I was a kid. I signed everything with my middle initial. No idea why. I just liked it. Turns out it's helpful differentiator online, because there are a lot of John Hansons, but there aren't that many John D. Hansons. And all the work that I've done in the past several years, it sure helps. So johndhanson.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Y'all, he's fantastic. Definitely take advantage. And I will see you on the next one. And we're going to be talking, so I'll see you soon for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Armando. Loved the conversation.
Thank you. And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, with John Hanson, John D. Hanson. And you can watch Spaghetti on the Wall anywhere where you can catch a podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, and always brought to you by LeDuc Entertainment. And we'll see y'all next week.